Welcome to AI Everywhere Leaders podcast, where we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming the way businesses operate and compete. I'm your host, Adriana, and today we're diving deep into a fundamental challenge that every organization faces: how to turn data from a byproduct into a strategic asset and how AI is revolutionizing that transformation. Our guest today is Jane Smith, Field Data and AI Officer at ThoughtSpot, where she helps organizations worldwide unlock the power of their data through AI-driven analytics and business intelligence. Jane's work sits at the fascinating intersection of data strategy, AI literacy, and organizational transformation, three areas that are absolutely critical for leaders navigating today's data-rich environment. Jane, welcome to the show.
Adriana, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Jane, before we dive into the complexities of data strategy and AI, can you tell our listeners about your role and what you're seeing in terms of how organizations are approaching their data and AI initiatives?
I can definitely do that, Adriana. I am the Field Chief Data and AI Officer for ThoughtSpot, which is the world's #1 agentic analytics platform. Essentially, that means it is the application of AI to BI, to business intelligence. So if you work in a company, instead of needing a team of data analysts or writing complex code, we use AI so that anyone who works in a business can type in a question in natural language, in their words. And, for example, what were our sales in Vancouver last quarter? And they can see answers instantly in plain English or whatever language you speak. So this means that business data can be explored by non-technical users and decision makers, and they can very quickly get to the answers they need. And we find this is a game changer for big companies to get so close to their data. I always like to think of it as you can talk to your data and your data talks back to you.
Excellent. That's amazing. Let's start with something that sounds simple, but it's incredibly complex in practice: treating data as an asset. Most organizations generate massive amounts of data, but many still struggle to derive real value from it. What does it actually mean for a business to leverage data as an asset?
Or Adriana, to me, it means it's quite simple. It means to open up new revenue streams for your company. It means to create new IP, or it can mean to make efficiencies for your company. So lower your cost to serve, maybe get through your processes more quickly. Now, your business may or may not be able to do some or all of those, but I think the key to data being a strategic asset is that businesses don't look at your data as just your reporting or your reporting tool. They look at it as the oil that sort of powers your decisions, automates processes, and unlocks innovation across your different functions. And then you asked how AI changes that. AI, it supercharges, it expands all of those things that I just mentioned. I worked in a business before, for example, which was able to make call centers a lot more efficient through the application of machine learning in their call centers. So call center agents could focus much more on the high value calls. At another company, we were able to get a lot more customers through the buying journey on the website through propensity models. That's before we even mention generative AI, Adriana, but I'm sure we'll talk about it in the podcast, so I'll hold it there.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for sharing that. Now, to your point, where does AI fit into this transformation? How do you see AI changing the way different organizations can actually extract value from their data assets?
Well, I mean, AI brings you so many more possibilities with your data. The power of the technology means that you can just get a lot more than we could get. Now, we talk about AI, and people tend to think of it as synonymous with generative AI, but I'll take you back a bit. Machine learning is also AI. I mean, probably anything that assists computational output is AI. Machine learning can really help you with those tasks that are repetitive, automated, to really do things a lot quicker, to find insights that were difficult to surface before. Generative AI, many use cases that can really get to the heart of how your business makes money, the heart of how you communicate with your customers. When it comes to your analytics, AI really can help you. If you think about how we all search for what we want to know now on ChatGPT or something like that, AI, when applied to BI, can help you get your insights and your data almost instantly without specialist teams.
From your experience working with different organizations, what do you see are the most common barriers that are preventing businesses from treating their data as a true asset?
Many, but I'm going to focus on one because the podcast won't go on all day. So if you treat, I don't think, if you are a business and you treat your data as an asset, Adriana, you also want to treat the team that manage it as asset managers. So ideally, your data team, they have capacity, they have funding, and they have support to develop the assets, to look after it. So to run innovations and pilots, test and learns, to spend time modernizing the platform, upgrading it. When I was a chief data officer, I always thought of the data asset as the data itself, of course, but also my data platform, the analytics and reporting we provided internally and externally, also part of the asset. And then, of course, the models and algorithms that we built. All those to me are components of the asset that the team need to be able to look after. But this isn't typically what data teams do, is it? Data teams tend to be pointed at, the endless line of ad hoc queries, break fixes, PR reviews, migrations, audit support. All those things have to be done, of course. You just can't have them taking up all the team's time. So my number one barrier is data teams just being overwhelmed with the day-to-day running.
So you're mentioning that the biggest barrier is the fact the teams are being overwhelmed with lots of
Yeah,
requests, ad hoc
yeah.
requests. Do you see anything interfering in terms of technicalities or strategy or cultural?
I do, but I think the number one barrier is quite a pragmatic barrier. I've always found it's not giving the data analytics team the space, the funding, and the mandate to actually develop the asset. Strategic barriers I don't see so much. There's very few companies that say no. We don't want our data to be an asset. Very few companies say that. I haven't seen there are technical challenges in getting the skills and things, but generally I see the barriers operational, the example I just mentioned.
Excellent. Can you walk us through a concrete example of an organization that successfully transformed their approach to data? What did their journey look like, and what role have you seen AI play into it?
I'm going to pick one example, one I really like actually. It was a company I worked at a few years ago. It's a very large, world class pharma company. And this was a few years ago. It was the early days of data science. And they were hugely ambitious. And they really could see that the AI era was coming. They could see that big organizations would have a huge change coming. And they were so there for it. They were determined to put data at the heart of everything they did. And this was a big deal for them. This is a big thing to do. It was very hard work. They had to start with the cloud migrations. They then had to upgrade all the machines in the factories so that they could interface and easily port into the ERP systems. They had to digitize a lot of R&D data, which was still on paper. They had to set up almost from the ground up for ecom. And they committed money to this. They committed funding. They got a chief data officers to lead it. And having leaned into this, they were then very well positioned to do the cool innovation work that we all love. They were quickly able to roll out things like risk prediction models for factories. So which factories are at the greatest risk of accident or injury? How do we lower carbon emissions in factories? How do they launch really cool, innovative marketing campaigns? So they were pretty ahead of the curve. And if I look at them now, they're still a leader in the data space, even though a lot of people would associate pharma companies with quite a traditional, sort of a laggard approach.
Yeah, that's an impressive story. For leaders listening who recognize they are not yet maximizing their data assets, what are the first steps they should take? Where do you typically recommend organizations to begin their transformation?
Yeah. I mean, I sort of like things small, even when you're a huge organization. I like to start small. So what I sort of recommend is look at what gets to the heart of how your business makes money and start there. I worked before at an insurance company. It was a digital insurer, and this company were not going to sit out the AI boom. They were going to be there for it. And the decision that we made there was, well, let's start with AI, let's start pilots, but let's start interacting with our customers. And this was only a few years ago, Adriana, and most companies were saying with AI, let's keep it in the back office, let's keep it quiet, and if anything goes wrong, it's all contained. But this company, no, interacting with our customers. We're a digital business. Let's get AI to get people through our buying journey, make their interactions once they're a customer easier, target our communications really nicely to them. So I think they're a great example. That's a great example of how you start with your digital asset. Another one that I like actually is a company I work with, at ThoughtSpot, and this business is all about providing data into pharma companies in European markets. And what their business is around is providing really good data to pharma companies. So they said, well, we'll have natural language analytics. We'll start our data asset transformation there, so that our customers who need our data just have this really good experience with it. So just to summarize that, whatever gets to the heart of how your business makes money, start there with your data transformation.
That's great advice. This brings us to another crucial topic, AI literacy. You've spoken about how AI literacy is essential for effective AI leadership. Can you break down what AI literacy actually means in a business context?
Yeah. So I think of it, level one AI literacy for anyone in the business, regardless of, your role, where you sit, is that you understand the language, the concepts, and the applications of AI. And I hope most of us, certainly all of us on this call, do. We then want to get sort of quickly to level two, which would be understand all those things, but specifically to your domain. So if you work in manufacturing, understand the impact of AI on predictive maintenance, how it's going to identify potential equipment issues before they slow down the production lines or cause batch failures. If you work in, I don't know, accounts payable, how's, AI automating the invoice processing life cycle. Level three is developing AI strategies. So, okay, now I know what it means. I know what it means in my domain. How am I going to bring it in? How's it going to help us? How am I going to get this working? Level four then is collaborating with AI tools. And we will have to do this more and more. This is the way our world is going. So, what do I let AI tools just get on with? But what do I actually say, no, I'll do this? This is a task for me. Where do we have hybrid working? And what does that hybrid working look like for me, for my team, for my colleagues? Am I the human in the loop? Where do I get into that loop? Now, with each of those levels, and we really have to start this from level one, AI literacy, fundamental is critical thinking, evaluating outputs, evaluating inputs. What went into this? Who made this? Do I need to go back and reevaluate my approach? What was the original hypothesis to this? And I think at every one of those levels, that critical thinking is necessary with AI, because the potential with AI is enormous, but the potential to scale, confusion, misinformation, also there.
I like how you segmented everything in levels, and also the approach by industry and job type. There's often a disconnect between technical AI capabilities and business understanding. How do you see bridge that gap, especially for senior leaders who need to make strategic decisions about AI, but maybe they don't have a technical background?
So for me, it's all about the cross-functional collaboration. I hope that we're not building too much in a business without the actual business present. But I have great faith in the power of interdisciplinary teams, where you have your data scientists, your domain expert, your business expert, your product owners. I've always had great success, seen great things, good, powerful results, lasting results, strong adoption, where co-develop solutions like in this way. Controversially, I'm not going to suggest a data or an AI translator. I think if you work collaboratively and cross-functionally, you don't need the AI translator. AI for execs as well. This is important. This is something I did a lot at different companies I worked in. Education to help leaders. They need to lead change. They need to make big investment decisions. In some cases, they need to rethink, where is our business actually going in the future? So that AI upskilling is definitely something to invest into, to put a lot of time into. I think also governance, when governance includes business stakeholders, you're really starting to bridge technical and business gaps there. You're really starting to make AI something that's across the entire organization.
Let's talk a bit about the cultural aspect of AI education. Many organizations are struggling with how to approach AI training. Should it be top down, bottom up, or something else internally? What's your perspective on building AI literacy at scale?
Mm. So I've worked at huge companies, really huge companies. I've worked at a medium company, and I've worked at two small tech companies. And my approach has definitely changed, but where I come back to time and time again. I do like it when things are small, and I like it when they're bottom up. I think you just get much better results when you focus on one thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. And I think even better if it's one thing that people really want to work on and they're really passionate about. And that's the kind of thing that is driven from the bottom up. Now, I think where the magic can happen is, where the top down doesn't drive the same excitement, but maybe the top down role here is creating the environment for that bottom up success to happen. Hackathons. I think hackathons are great, Adriana. I've seen when people are allowed to participate in projects, when they have, space, time, and resources to create things that become pieces of working software at the end of a day. And a hackathon is something that can be the top can organize, pay for. Sorry, I don't know if this is making sense, but I
No, no,
think
it does. It does.
is it making
I
sense?
love a hackathon. I love a hackathon, and I completely agree with what you're saying. I feel like during the hackathons, you can actually see what's possible because many
Yeah.
people out there, even if they are super technical, certified, I've seen this situation many times by organizing hackathons, and they don't know the art of the possible. So creating those environments, I think it's super important. I wrote in my newsletter, I dedicated a full newsletter to hackathons and why they are important and the value they
Yeah,
bring.
exactly. Time to work on your
So
own
I
passion
totally
project.
agree. I'm just fascinated because I literally agree with everything you're saying. So it's such a pleasure, to see the way you think and
Right.
especially from your past experience working for so many different and large
Mm.
organizations, interacting with so many large customers as well. What role should formal education institutions play in building AI literacy? This is like, for me, this is a personal question because I went through multiple universities in different cultures. Do you see enough interactions of AI concept into business education? Or do you feel is this still a kind of a on the job learning challenge?
Yeah, and I think, and I have seen your educational background, Adrienne. It's very impressive. I do think there is absolutely a place for formal learning in companies in the areas, and I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more opportunities to learn the hard skills for sure. And I'd like to see more learning around almost the philosophy, the philosophical elements and the ethical elements that we're dealing with here. And, I spoke about the critical thinking earlier. There's this one thing, the concept of metacognition, which means thinking about thinking. That's something that machines cannot do. Only we can do. Humans are winning on this one. And it means, just to think about that the right way. Did I apply the right hypothesis? Did I approach it the right way? Do I need to go back and redo it? For now, machines can't do that. We can do that. And I'd love to see a little bit more formal input on how to learn about this, how to think about this, infiltrating our organizations and our businesses. And I think very closely connected to this would be the pitfalls potentially. Bias, unintended consequences. I think formal learning could really help us here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for years, I couldn't understand why. When I was studying computer science in my first year, that was like 2002, so ages ago. My first year, super excited to learn, about technical stuff. My expectations were quite specific, right? So
Mm.
I go to this university back in Romania for computer science automation, and I see my hours, and I'm in complete shock because I had something about philosophy. The history of philosophy was the first module, and then it was going into top philosophical minds or something like that. And I was like, I couldn't understand, why do we need we want to do automation, we want to do robots, we want to do software, why do we need to learn about this? And now
Yeah.
hearing you say that, it finally, after more than 2 decades, nearly three now, it clicked. Like, okay, that's why. Actually, it just makes sense now, when you explain it like that.
Did I tell you what MIT could not tell you?
Well, yeah, you kind of did.
No,
In few minutes, you
thank
kind
you.
of did.
Oh.
Now let's dive into something really exciting: the agentic AI and its role in revolutionizing businesses and business intelligence. Really, for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term, can you explain what agentic AI is and how it differs from traditional AI applications?
Yeah. So, agentic having or showing or demonstrating agency. So the capacity to independently make choices and do things. So we sort of think in ThoughtSpot, we think of agentic or agents, these sort of goal-oriented, context-aware assistants that are going to come to us with insights. And then the sort of a next step on from that is autonomous. So autonomous is where we have agents that have discovered the insights, they brought the insight to us, they're aware of what's caused the insight, but they're then able to start taking steps to fix the problem, to rectify it without necessarily needing you. So this is the brave new world that we're stepping into. It's not science fiction, it's not far away, not just in ThoughtSpot, across the industry. We're building towards this, and it's going to change everything.
How do you see agentic AI specifically transforming business intelligence? What capabilities does it enable that weren't possible with traditional BI tools?
Yeah, you can talk to data. You can have a conversation with it, and we can do that now through our ThoughtSpot agent spotter. You literally ask your questions. Why are my sales down in France? Why am I seeing so much churn in Germany? And you get answers in words. You get answers, the visuals that are presented back to you. You don't need to type a single line of code. You need no SQL. You don't need to go and ask an analytics team. You don't even need to go and reconfigure a dashboard. This is the power of when you're able to apply AI to BI.
We might need the demo now. Right. Can they do predictive analysis for you? So in your example, let's say I ask verbally, how are the sales in France?
Mhm.
As an example, gives me the answer, but can it also predict what's going to happen based on maybe the marketing
Yeah.
campaigns that are live or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, predictive AI is something that we can do now and have been able to do for quite a while through models. But that capability to build out predictive models has been with us for a while. I think the difference with generative AI is you can look at these things now as a conversation rather than a model output or a visualization. But yeah, absolutely.
Exciting, exciting times. Can you give our listeners a practical example of agentic AI in action with a business intelligence context? What would a day in the life of a
What
business
did
analyst look
they
like
look
with
like?
these capabilities? Yeah.
Sure, I'd love to. I tend to talk a lot about pharma and insurance and retail, so I won't this time. I'm going to talk about wealth management. It was a nice challenge for me as well. So for our wealth manager, we're going to say that she's new. She oversees, she's at a fund management business. She oversees a portfolio, but she's very new to the company. And on the first day, she logs onto her analytics platform, which is an agentic analytics platform. Is it ThoughtSpot or not? Who can say? But maybe it's her first day, so she doesn't really know what she doesn't know. So she logs on and she has a look and she sees a model on her homepage, asset under management, and she thinks, "What's this?" And she asks it. So she says, "Okay, what will this data help me do with my client?" So we have an agent in ThoughtSpot. It's called Spotter. It looks at it and it says to her, "Well, here are some examples of things that you might want to ask. We could show you the asset class for each client. We could show you which clients have the highest value assets. We could show you which of our advisors manage the most valuable portfolios." So she says, "Okay, this is great. This is great. Show me the assets and the value then." So the agent, Spotify agent, now knows that she's not asking about the data, she's asking something of the data. And it brings her up a dashboard with the asset managers and the assets that they're managing. So she can see all this and she thinks, "Okay, that's great. But now I have another question for this asset manager. Maybe what's the makeup of their portfolio?" So she can type it in, or she can even drill into the dashboard that she's given. She can start to explore, she can get deeper. She might want to know the asset classes, the demographic, the sector, all of these things she can either drill into or she can ask in natural language because she has an agent. She has like her own personal analyst that's helping her with this. Maybe she sees, okay, with this asset class, things have changed over time. It's a very different picture last year to this year. What's driving it? So she could call on the AI highlights and they show her why things have changed. They tell her what's behind the changes and they give her some follow-up questions that she might want to ask as well. So she's now been asked to present to the board. She's having a very, very big first day. Induction in the morning, board presentation in the afternoon. And she can now give an overview of her portfolio. She can go into the board and she can say, well, this is my portfolio. This is what's looking good. This is where we're seeing a little bit of volatility. And she can take in quite a nice exec summary from the AI highlights that Spot has been able to give her. It's very nice narrative and storytelling there. And, probably she'll be asked some questions by the board while she's there. Great. Just shares her screen and she's able to pull these insights up in real time, pull up the dashboards, pull up the answers in Spotter, because this is how an agentic analytics platform works. She doesn't have to download anything. She doesn't have to export, doesn't have to screenshot. She can just do the live demos to her board. So I hope that's a good real
Yeah,
life example.
it feels like we are living the future. This sounds really transformative and futuristic. So I imagine there are also some challenges. What are the key considerations organizations need to address when they are implementing agentic AI for business intelligence?
This question always makes me laugh because the answer really is the same whether you're implementing a very old school static dashboard or you are implementing the agentic autonomous future foundations. Our agentic AI needs to run on good data. The business need to invest in clean, current, well-governed data. Otherwise, agents they could take action based on outdated, flawed inputs. We need to have shared ontologies. We need to have the say. We need to agree what things mean in a business. If you're in a pharma company and customer churn in commercial affairs means inactive for 3 months, but in medical affairs it means didn't attend the last HCP conference. We're going to have different ideas of what things are. Any machine and probably any human is going to struggle with that as well.
Yeah, that's a great example. From a governance perspective, how do you ensure that agentic AI systems are making decisions and are taking actions that align with the business objectives and also with the compliance requirements?
Yeah, I mean, governance remains critical. That will never change. And in this new world, we need to ensure that our data governance extends to cover our native AI and ML assets. Agentic systems, absolutely, they must operate with clear policy boundaries. They must ensure compliance. They need to know how to avoid bias, and we all need to be cognizant of this. They need to maintain business alignment. Human oversight isn't going away. It's evolving, and this is part of the governance that we build.
Looking ahead, how do you see agentic AI evolving in the business intelligence space? What should leaders be preparing for?
Let me talk, because I do see a lot of the evolution. I have seen a lot of the evolution, analytics. So if we go back a few years, the standard we had was dashboards. Dashboards were our go-to, right, for our data, our reporting. And dashboards are great, right? They give us answers to questions, as long as your question, of course, was exactly tailored to what the dashboard was configured to show you. If it wasn't, well, then you'd have to go back to your analyst, ask some more questions, wait a few days for them to come back, have another question. They have to, go and interrogate some more sources, join some more things together. So dashboards, they sort of had a limit. We're now in a sort of a different era of data analytics, of natural language query. So like everything we just spoke about, people want to be able to ask, what's going on? Help me think about this a bit more. Suggest some routes for me to go down. That's where we are now. Companies are moving a lot more towards that. They're moving definitely towards business users being able to get insights rather than specialist teams needing to do it. Now, your question was where next? Where next? We are in the process of moving to agentic. So this is where we have our context-aware assistants that start to proactively come to us with insights. So we have AI agents, data agents able to monitor many different sources of data and come to us with context-rich insights. Now, this is starting to be enabled by something called MCP, the Model Context Protocol. It was released by Anthropic at the end of last year. It really gained traction in about February this year. And this is a standard. This is the beginning of being able to plug things like data sources into LLM agents. So what we see are companies, different vendors, different companies being able to put things together. So for example, if I were to use an LLM front end, maybe Claude or something like that, it could call through Spotter's MCP servers. So you could get your ThoughtSpot data insights through that. So this is next iteration we're stepping into. And then the future after that is autonomous. So we would have our AI agents bringing us insights and then starting to interrogate systems, starting to understand why is this change happened. So maybe it interrogates an SAP, an internal ERP system. It interrogates I don't know, unstructured data and starts to understand why things are happening and then starts to kick off a system of agents to resolve problems. That is ultimately where we're going with analytics.
Bringing together everything we've discussed, data as an asset, AI literacy, and agentic AI, what does it take to build a truly data driven culture in an organization?
Make it easy for people to get data. I'm convinced that's all. And I have no hesitation in blowing our own trumpet here in ThoughtSpot. We use our tools as well for our internal analysis and our data. We call it champagne because the phrase "you drink your own champagne." That's what we do. I use it all the time. I look at all my everything I need to know for the quarter, everything for my customers. Just make it easy for people to get data. We're a very data driven culture.
Excellent. Many organizations claim to be data driven, but their decision making process still relies heavily on intuition and experience. How do you help organizations make that cultural shift to genuine data driven decision making?
I think it's the same as what I just said. Make it easy to get data and, reward people for using data as well. I think that's how it becomes part of your culture. Honestly don't know that it's anything more complicated than that. So, I think it's easy for us to get distracted with big change programs, big upgrades, big implementations. But if you make it easy for people to get data, this happens by itself, right? Nobody had to give us a cultural shift to start using WhatsApp. It was just there. It was so easy to use. It was so much better than what we had before. Everybody thought, okay, WhatsApp, and I think you can do this. You can look at it the same way in the data space.
Yeah, I like that. I'm just concerned about the metrics and measurements. How do they play in building all those data-driven cultures? Do you have an agent that looks after the reports, some other agents that ensure the data is correct? Like how do you balance the art and science of business decision making in the future, in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I take it down to the level of agents and what technology is applicable to what part of that. If I think if the question is what role do metrics and measurements play versus and what's the balance of art and science, I would say, the metrics and measures of the scaffolding. They translate the business's high level goals into operational focus. So we use them to surface what's working well, what's not. We use them to make decisions. But a purely data driven approach is only ever going to focus on what's measurable, right? So I always sort of think if we use data as a dialogue rather than a diktat, or it's a starting point for conversations. And similarly, if we think of guardrails, maybe not straitjackets, so we can flexible KPIs rather than rigid targets, allowing for context based deviation, allowing for explanation. Then I think we're still data driven, but we're still using the art as well as the science.
From your perspective at ThoughtSpot, what are the most effective strategies for democratizing data access while maintaining data quality and governance?
You will be shocked to hear that we believe that self-service AI analytics are the most effective way to democratize data. That's really why the company was built, so everyone can access data, not just a specialized team. We think that governed access to source systems leverage that. Centralized data governed at source. So if you embed governance into the user experience, the role-based access control, end users only see what they should. Query logging, audit trails, searchable metadata and lineage. And I should add everything with our ThoughtSpot tool is tokenized search. It's highly deterministic SQL generation. Everything is explainable, auditable. There's zero black box, zero hallucinations. But I think when you have that combination of governance of safe tools, you can democratize data in a way that doesn't keep anybody up at night.
Excellent. What advice would you give to leaders who want to champion data driven decisions making but are facing some resistance from teams that are maybe comfortable with traditional approaches?
Yeah. So I wouldn't talk about data or AI at all. I would talk about the business and what it could be. If you are, let's take maybe a high volume business, you sell toothpaste. High volumes of products to toothpaste. Even a few percentage points of volume growth is going to mean a lot to your business. It's going to be a game changer. We're talking about 3-5%, not 80% or something. So if you could instantly get answers that are going to get you to that 3-5%, it's going to just open up your business. If you could see very quickly, why are my sales of toothpaste dropping in France, or what's causing this change in Germany, or if you're a pharma company, maybe, so you have lower volume but higher pricing. Things like, what late stage drugs should I accelerate? What's looking good there. I think if leaders can articulate how the business could benefit and change, the AI, the data just becomes the way you do that. It doesn't become a data conversation.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let's move to some rapid fire questions
Fire.
to give our listeners some quick actionable
Okay.
insights from your experience. This is the part I love the most from the podcast. Biggest mistake organizations make when trying to become data driven?
Big 2-year plans, huge teams, all the value delivered at the end. Keep it small.
Most important AI literacy skill for non-technical leaders?
Critical thinking. What went into this? What's come out of it? What is the approach?
Best way to measure the success of data strategy?
Are people using your tools? Are they talking about them? Are you seeing results from them using the tools?
One agentic AI capability every business should understand?
AI-powered analytics.
Most overrated aspect of business intelligence today?
All the different chart types. Do we really need so many?
Most underrated factor in AI implementation success?
Having people excited and wanting to work on things rather than being told to.
Key quality to look for when hiring for data and AI roles?
Questioning things. Why is this like it is? Why should we do that? How did this come to be? Just always questioning.
Best resource for improving AI literacy?
ThoughtSpot.
If you could give only one piece of advice to leaders about data strategy, what would it be?
Start small. Start with one thing that would make a difference to your business. Don't try to boil the ocean in one day and then turn it into a 2-year project.
Jane, this has been absolutely
It's been
enlightening.
great.
Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about ThoughtSpot's approach to AI-powered business intelligence?
Yeah, certainly. Thoughtspot.com, but please find me on LinkedIn, Jane Smith ThoughtSpot. The Data Chief podcast, big event in the data industry, led by a lady called Cindy Housen, who's the chief data and AI strategist for ThoughtSpot. I would definitely look her up, or myself, and we'd love to speak to you.
Excellent. I'm following the podcast myself as well.
Yeah, I was very your fan. Me too. Yeah, I love it.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jane. Your insights on treating data as an asset, building AI literacy, and also leveraging agentic AI for business intelligence provides such valuable guidance for leaders navigating this transformation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Adriana. It was really fun.
Glad you enjoyed it. To our listeners, remember that in today's competitive landscape, data is not just something your systems generate, it's one of your most valuable assets. Jane's insights shows us that success is just about having the right technology, building the right culture, skills, and mindset to truly leverage technology. The future belongs to organizations that can democratize data access while maintaining governance, build AI literacy across all levels, and embrace agentic AI to augment human decision making. It's not about replacing human insight, it's about amplifying it. Don't forget to subscribe to AI Everywhere Leaders podcast for more insights on data strategy, AI implementation, and digital transformation. And if this episode sparked new ideas about your data strategy, please share it with your network and give us a review. Until next time, remember that every piece of data in your organization has the potential to drive better decisions.